I want to start with something that might sound small, but I promise you it is not small at all. Think about the last time someone told you something in English. Directions, instructions, a plan, a piece of news. And then they paused. And in that pause, they looked at you. And maybe they nodded just slightly. Or maybe they said something quick like, "You got that?" Or, "Does that work?" Or, "So we're good." And you said yes? Or you nodded? Or you said, "Yeah, sounds good." And then you both moved on. Now here's my question. In that moment, when you said yes, when you confirmed, did you actually know what you were confirming? Did you have a clear, complete, accurate picture of what had just been communicated? Or did you kind of confirm because that felt like the right thing to do? Because saying yes was easier than admitting you weren't totally sure? Because if the second thing happened, if you confirmed without being fully certain, then the conversation continued on a foundation that wasn't quite solid. And somewhere down the line, something went wrong. A plan got mixed up. An expectation didn't get met. A task got done differently than intended. And the root of it was that confirmation moment. That small, quick, easy-feeling exchange that didn't quite do what it was supposed to do. Today, we are going to fix that. Today, we are going to talk about how speakers confirm information in English. The specific language they use when they check and verify and lock down understanding. The yes checks that make communication solid and real. And by the end of this lesson, you will hear them completely differently. Welcome back. I'm Alex, and this is English in Fluency, the channel where we go deep into the real, spoken, human English language. Not the version from a course book, the version from a project meeting, a phone call with a client, a conversation over lunch with a colleague you trust, a quick exchange in the corridor before a big presentation. Real English, the kind where confirming information is not a formality, but a genuine act of making sure. And learning to hear that act, learning to catch the yes-check moments in real conversations and understand exactly what's being confirmed and how, is going to change the quality of your communication in English at every level. Let me introduce you to the people we're spending time with today. Our main character is a man named Theo. Theo is 28 years old. He works at an events management company, and he has been in the English-speaking workplace for about 2 years. His English is strong and getting stronger. He's good at his job. He's organized, he's reliable, and people like working with him. But he has one habit that keeps causing him small but persistent problems. When people confirm information with him, when they check that he's received something, understood something, agreed to something, he sometimes gives confirmation that's a little hollow. He says yes when he means mostly. He says got it when he means I think so. He says sounds good when some part of him is still slightly unclear, not dishonestly. Just because the confirmation language comes fast and social pressure says yes, and he goes with it. And then things go slightly wrong, and he traces it back. And every single time, the gap opened at a confirmation moment. Theo's closest colleague and friend at work is a woman named Iris. Iris is 32, warm, extremely organized, and one of those people who has made a personal philosophy out of clarity. She doesn't leave things fuzzy. She checks, she confirms, she makes things explicit, and she does it all with such ease and naturalness that it never feels bureaucratic or stiff. Being around Iris has shown Theo what clean confirmation looks like, and he's been slowly absorbing her habits without always realizing it. There's also a character named Bryce. Bryce is Theo's line manager, 42, fast-moving, constantly busy, and someone who gives information quickly and then needs to know it landed. Bryce checks for confirmation constantly, almost reflexively, because he's learned through experience that information that isn't confirmed is information that's at risk. His confirmation checks are quick, frequent, and completely non-judgmental. He's not checking because he thinks you're slow. He's checking because he takes communication seriously. And finally, there's a client named Clara. Clara runs a corporate events program for a large financial firm, and she is meticulous. When Clara confirms something, she confirms it completely, restating what was agreed, specifying every detail, closing every possible gap. Her confirmations are longer than most people's, and they used to make Theo slightly impatient. But he started to understand that Clara's thoroughness is not excessive. It's just an accurate reflection of how much is at stake when details go wrong. Okay, let's begin. It's a Monday morning. Theo arrives at the office and Bryce is already there, coffee in hand, already moving. Bryce stops by Theo's desk and says, "Quick one. The venue confirmation for the Henderson event. Did that go out Friday?" Theo says, "Yes. Sent Thursday, actually, ahead of schedule." Bryce says, "Good. And they confirmed receipt?" Theo pauses for just half a second. "I got a reply saying they'd received it and were reviewing." Bryce nods. "Okay, so we have receipt, but not confirmation of terms?" Theo says, "Right. They said they'd come back by end of the week." Bryce says, "Fine. Flag it on Wednesday if we haven't heard. We don't want to be chasing on Friday." Theo says, "Will do." Bryce says, "Good. So just to be clear, Wednesday you'll follow up if nothing by then, and we treat receipt without confirmation as open?" Theo says, "Exactly. Open until they confirm terms." Bryce says, "Perfect. We're aligned." And he moves on. That exchange took about 40 seconds. And in those 40 seconds, several things happened that are worth paying close attention to. First, Bryce made a distinction, immediately, cleanly, between receipt and confirmation. This distinction matters enormously in professional communication, and yet it's one that many people blur. Getting an email saying, "We've received this and will review," is not the same as getting an email saying, "We've reviewed this and we agree." Receipt is acknowledgement. Confirmation is agreement. Bryce named this difference out loud, making it explicit, and Theo confirmed that his understanding was the same. Then Bryce did something specific at the end. He restated the plan in one crisp sentence. "Wednesday you'll follow up if nothing by then, and we treat receipt without confirmation as open." He summarized. He locked it down. And he waited for Theo to confirm the summary. Exactly. Open until they confirm terms. That's a complete confirmation loop. Information shared, understanding checked, understanding confirmed, loop closed. Iris was nearby during this exchange. Later, when she and Theo are getting coffee, she says, "Did you notice what Bryce does at the end of those quick updates?" Theo says, "What do you mean?" Iris says, "He always restates the agreement before he walks away." Just one sentence. "So we're treating this as open. Wednesday you'll follow up." It's like he staples the plan to the conversation before he closes it. Theo thinks about this. He does do that. I'd never really noticed it before. Iris says, "It's the thing that means you never walk out of a conversation with Bryce unsure what the plan is. He makes the plan explicit right before he leaves. And then when you confirm it, it's done. It's solid. This is the first and most important thing about how confirmation works in real English conversation. Good confirmation is not one thing. It's a loop. Information goes from the speaker to the listener, and then the listener reflects it back, in some form, at some level of detail, and the speaker confirms the reflection. The loop only closes when both people have the same picture, and they've both demonstrated that they have the same picture. Bryce's "we're aligned" at the end is the closing of the loop. It's his signal that the confirmation is complete. Let's talk about the specific language of confirmation in English, because it's rich and varied and worth knowing well. There are several main ways that speakers signal confirmation in real conversation, and each has its own purpose and its own context. The first is the explicit confirmation phrase. These are direct, clear statements that something has been confirmed or agreed. That's confirmed. We're confirmed on that. That's locked in. That's set. We're good on that. That's agreed. That's done. These phrases leave no room for ambiguity. They're the clearest possible signal that the communication loop has closed. When you hear "that's locked in," you know this is not open for further discussion or uncertainty. It has been verified, and it's now established. Explicit confirmation phrases are most common in professional contexts: events planning, project management, logistics, where the cost of ambiguity is high. The second is the restatement confirmation. This is when a speaker confirms something by restating it, repeating back the key details of what was agreed or understood in their own words or in the original words to demonstrate that the information has been correctly received. So we're saying the venue is confirmed for the 23rd, set up from noon. Okay, so 300 guests, seated dinner, and the AV team arrives at 10. That's the picture? So the deadline is Friday close of business, the report goes to Clara directly, and I send you a copy? The restatement is a dual signal. It confirms agreement, and it demonstrates comprehension. It says, "I've received this correctly, and I can prove it by playing it back accurately." Iris uses this form constantly, and Theo has come to love it. When Iris says, "Okay, so," and restates a plan or an agreement, he knows two things. First, that she has actually understood it. Second, that any detail she didn't include in the restatement is something he should gently add, because she might have missed it. The restatement confirmation is also a diagnostic tool. It surfaces gaps. If you tell someone something and they restate it back to you and they've left out a crucial detail, that's information. That tells you the detail didn't land, and you can add it before the conversation closes. The third form is the summary check. This is slightly different from the restatement. Where the restatement tends to repeat specific details, the summary check captures the overall agreement at a higher level. So we're good on everything? So we're all set? Okay, so we're on the same page? We're aligned? So that's everything? These are closing checks. They say, "We've been through the details, and now I want to confirm that the overall picture is agreed." They're the bow on top of the package. And the appropriate response to a summary check is a real, engaged yes, not a reflexive one. Because the summary check is inviting you to do a quick internal scan. Have we actually covered everything? Is there anything I'm unclear on? Does the overall picture feel complete? Theo has started to practice this internal scan before responding to summary checks, and it has already caught a few things. Twice in the past 2 weeks, he's been about to say, "Yes, we're good," to a summary check, and then paused for half a second and thought, "Wait, actually, there's one thing I'm not completely sure about." And instead of saying, "Yes, we're good," he's said, "Almost. Just one thing. Did we decide who's handling the vendor communication?" And both times, that one additional check caught something that would have caused a problem later. The fourth form is the action confirmation. This is when a speaker confirms not just understanding, but commitment to an action, verifying that something is going to happen, not just that it's been understood. So you'll send me the draft by Thursday? And Iris is covering the setup? The florist is confirmed for 9 a.m.? You're handling the client briefing? These confirmation checks are asking who does what and when. They're making the action plan explicit and checking that everyone is committed to their specific piece of it. Action confirmations are especially important in collaborative work, where the risk is not just misunderstanding, but inaction. Someone assuming someone else is handling something and nobody handling it. Bryce is particularly good at action confirmations. He doesn't end conversations with just a shared understanding of a situation. He ends them with a shared, explicit, confirmed picture of what happens next and who does it. You'll follow up Wednesday. Flag it for me if anything changes. Send me the confirmation when you get it. These are not suggestions. They're confirmations of who does what. And Theo has started to realize that this habit, more than almost anything else, is why Bryce's projects run cleanly. The fifth form is the soft confirmation signal. This is the most informal and the most common in casual conversation. It's the quick light signal that says, "Yes, I received that. I'm with you. That's correct. Mm-hmm. Right. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yep. Perfect. Absolutely." These signals don't restate or summarize. They simply acknowledge and confirm. And in the right context, they're completely sufficient. When someone tells you that the meeting has moved from 3 to 3:30, you don't need to say, "So just to confirm, the meeting is now at 3:30 rather than 3. You can just say, "Got it," and move on. The soft confirmation is the everyday, conversational, low-overhead way of saying, "Message received and understood." But here's where it gets interesting. The soft confirmation is appropriate when the message is simple, clear, and low stakes. When the message is complex, detailed, or high stakes, a soft confirmation is often not enough, even though it might feel like it is. "Got it" to a simple time change is fine. "Got it" to a detailed set of event logistics is not the same thing. And the person who says "got it" to the complex message and moves on without a restatement or a summary check is the person who later discovers that some of the details didn't actually fully land. This is exactly Theo's pattern. He uses soft confirmations in situations that call for something more solid. And the difference is something he's slowly learning to feel. Let's go to Tuesday, because there's a conversation with Clara that I want to walk you through in detail. It's a call about the details of her company's annual client dinner, an event that Theo's team is managing, that Clara is extremely invested in, and that has approximately 47 moving parts. They've been working on it for 3 months, The call is a final verification call, 1 week out from the event. Clara starts by going through everything: the venue, the catering, the guest list, the seating arrangement, the AV requirements, the welcome drinks, the entertainment, the timings, the dietary requirements, the parking arrangements, the name badges, the gift bags. For each item, she doesn't just describe it, she confirms it. The venue has confirmed 212 guests' capacity, and we have 208 confirmed attendees. That's correct, isn't it? Theo confirms. The caterer has confirmed the menu, and they're aware of the 17 dietary requirements. We have that in writing? Theo confirms. The AV team arrives at 9, setup is complete by 12, and sound check is at 2. Those are the confirmed times? Theo confirms. At first, Theo used to find these calls slightly exhausting. Clara confirmed everything, multiple times, in great detail. It felt, at moments, like a very long exam. But something shifted for him a few months ago. He was on one of these calls, and he was going through the process, and something came up. A detail he'd thought was confirmed that turned out to be confirmed only verbally, not in writing. And Clara's careful confirmation process caught it before the event, before anything went wrong. In that moment, Theo understood what Clara's confirmations were for. They weren't about distrust. They weren't about being difficult. They were a safety net. Every confirmation was a stitch in the net, and the net was what stood between the event running perfectly and the event having an embarrassing, possibly costly gap. After the call, Iris checks in with Theo. "How'd the Clara call go?" Theo says, "Good, clean, everything's confirmed." Iris says, "Did anything come up?" Theo says, "One thing, the backup AV contact. We had a name but hadn't confirmed they'd be reachable on the night. Clara caught it. We've got a direct mobile now." Iris raises an eyebrow. So, the call was worth having. Theo says, "The call was definitely worth having." Iris says, "That's why she does it, the way she does it. One missed detail on a 200-person dinner is a nightmare. Her process catches them before they happen." Theo says, "I used to find it a bit much." Iris says, "I know. Most people do, at first. And then something almost goes wrong and you understand." Theo says, "Yeah, I understand." There's a concept I want to introduce here that connects to what Clara does and what Bryce does and what Iris does, and that is what I'd call the confirmation culture. A confirmation culture is a shared understanding within a team or a professional relationship that information isn't final until it's been confirmed. Not just received, not just heard, but actually verified and closed. In a confirmation culture, "I told you" isn't enough. "I confirmed with you" is what counts. And both parties in the relationship understand this and behave accordingly. This culture might sound formal or even slightly paranoid, but it's actually the opposite of paranoia. It's the foundation of genuine trust. In a team where everyone confirms, where nobody pretends to understand something they're not sure of, where everyone closes the loop, trust is high, because misunderstandings are low. People do what they said they'd do because they understood clearly what they agreed to. Things go right because the gaps were caught before they could become problems. And the relationship between everyone in the team is cleaner, warmer, and more reliable as a result. Theo has been building this culture with Iris for months, mostly without naming it. They check with each other. They restate agreements. They catch gaps. And they've noticed that the work they do together, almost never has the downstream complications that they sometimes see when working with people outside the team. The confirmation habit is the reason. Let me go deeper now into some of the specific language patterns that appear in real confirmation exchanges, because I want you to have a precise and complete understanding of how this sounds in actual English speech. One of the most common patterns in professional English confirmation is what I call the two-part check. This is when a speaker checks understanding in two steps. First summarizing what was agreed, then checking the summary with a tag question. So the plan is to send the proposal Monday and follow up Wednesday, right? We're good on the catering, and the AV is the last thing to confirm, yes? So you've got the guest list, and I've got the logistics, and we meet Friday to review. Is that the picture? The first part is the restatement. The second part, right? Yes? Is that the picture? Is the confirmation tag. Together, they do everything. They demonstrate comprehension and they invite verification. If anything in the restatement was wrong, the tag question is the invitation to correct it. Another important pattern is the check before acting confirmation. This is when someone confirms before they do something rather than after. Just to confirm before I send this, the address is the Meridian Hotel, not the Meridian Center. Before I call them, they know it's for a corporate event, not a private one, right? Let me just double-check before I book. We're saying 200 guests, not 150? These pre-action confirmations are particularly valuable because they catch errors at exactly the right moment, before they've been acted upon, before they've been communicated to a third party, before any difficulty arises from them. A confirmation that comes before an action is worth 10 confirmations that come after something has gone wrong. Theo has learned to build check-before-acting confirmations into his workflow almost automatically now, especially for anything involving external communication. Anything that goes to a venue, a vendor, a client. He pauses before he sends or calls, and he quickly runs through. Do I have everything confirmed? Am I acting on verified information? And when something isn't quite verified, he checks before he acts. Not after. There's also a pattern I want to highlight that's more specific to spoken conversation, and that is the real-time running confirmation. This is when a speaker confirms understanding incrementally as information is being shared, not at the end of an exchange, but throughout it. Right. Okay. Got it. Yes? And then, these running confirmations tell the speaker, I'm with you, I'm following, keep going. They're not just politeness. They're a real-time signal that the communication is working. And a speaker who doesn't receive these signals, who talks into a silence with no running confirmation, often can't tell whether they're being understood. The running confirmation is a gift to the speaker. It says, your message is landing. Theo has gotten much better at this in the past few months, at giving running confirmations to the people he's listening to. Not interrupting, not taking over, just saying right and and okay at the right moments. And he's noticed that people respond well to it. They relax, they feel heard, and they communicate more clearly, more completely, because the feedback loop is working. Now let's bring Theo to a scene that shows him putting all of this together in a way that he couldn't have done 3 months ago. It's Thursday. There's an internal meeting to finalize the plans for the Henderson event. Theo, Iris, Bryce, and two other colleagues are in the room. Bryce is running through the final checklist. He moves through each item quickly. Theo is listening, but he's also actively processing, running internal checks as Bryce talks, noting anything that doesn't quite feel fully confirmed in his own mind. Bryce gets to the transport logistics. He says the shuttle buses are booked, departure times confirmed, arrival window at the venue confirmed. He pauses. Theo says, "Quick check on the shuttles. We have confirmed bookings in writing or just verbal?" Bryce pauses. He looks at the notes. He says, "I believe it's confirmed in writing. Iris, can you verify that?" Iris checks her email on her laptop. "Yes, written confirmation received. I've got the booking reference." Bryce says, "Good. Thanks, Theo." And he moves on. Small moment. Maybe 15 seconds. But it caught something. Not a problem, as it turned out, but a potential gap that nobody was completely sure about until Iris checked. And Theo's question, "We have confirmed bookings in writing or just verbal?" is a classic check before acting confirmation. He wasn't challenging Bryce. He wasn't being difficult. He was making sure that what felt confirmed was actually confirmed. And in that meeting room, with that team, that kind of check-in is understood and welcomed. Nobody raised an eyebrow. Nobody looked impatient. Bryce said, "Good question. Let's check." Because in that team, that's what check-in looks like. After the meeting, Iris says to Theo, "That was a good catch on the shuttle confirmation." Theo says, "I almost didn't say anything. I thought, it's probably fine." Iris says, "But you said it anyway." Theo says, "Yeah, because probably fine and confirmed in writing are not the same thing." Iris smiles. "No, they're really not. Probably fine and confirmed in writing are not the same thing. Let me say that again because it's the whole lesson in one sentence. Probably fine is assumption. Confirmed in writing is knowledge. Probably fine is hope. Confirmed in writing is certainty. And the gap between them is where most professional problems live. In the probably fine land, where people believed something was solid, and it turned out to be slightly less solid than they thought. Good confirmation language, the kind we've been exploring all day, is the tool that moves things from probably fine to actually confirmed, from assumed to verified, from hoping to knowing. And that movement is not about distrust or anxiety. It's about clarity, about professionalism, about the simple and profound respect you show other people when you make sure that what you're communicating with them is real and accurate and complete. Let's get into our practice exercises now, because I want to make sure you leave today with things you can actually use right away. The first exercise is what I want to call confirmation loop tracking. For the next week, in every English conversation where something gets confirmed, a plan, a fact, a task, a detail, track whether the confirmation loop closed fully. Did someone restate what was agreed? Did someone check the restatement? Did both people leave with the same explicit picture? Or did the conversation close on a soft confirmation, a got it, or sounds good, that felt complete, but might have left some things slightly open? You're not judging anyone. You're just observing. And what you'll notice is that conversations with full confirmation loops almost never generate follow-up confusion, while conversations that close on soft confirmations sometimes do. The second exercise is the restatement practice. This one is simple and incredibly useful. Every time someone gives you a piece of information, a plan, a set of instructions, a set of details, practice restating it back to them before you respond. So, just to make sure I've got this right, the event is on the 23rd. Setup starts at noon, and you need the guest list finalized by next Friday? It takes 4 or 5 extra seconds. It sounds professional and engaged, and it catches gaps that neither of you knew existed. Do this for a week and see what happens. I'd be surprised if it doesn't change at least one conversation you have. The third exercise is verbal confirmation spotting. As you listen to any English audio, a podcast, a meeting recording, a film or TV scene, listen specifically for the moments of confirmation. When does someone say, "That's confirmed"? When does someone say, "Just to be clear"? When does someone restate before closing? When does someone use a tag check? Right? Yes? Doesn't it? To verify agreement? Getting your ear tuned to these moments, even in audio you're just listening to for pleasure or learning, will rapidly build your sensitivity to confirmation language in real conversation. The fourth exercise is what I call the pre-action pause. Before you send any email, make any call, book any appointment, or take any action on behalf of someone else, pause for 5 seconds and ask yourself, is this confirmed? Is this based on verified information or assumed information? If it's assumed, can I check before I act? This exercise is not about being slow or anxious. It's about the small habit that catches the small gaps before they become big ones. 5 seconds before sending. 1 quick check. That's often all it takes. And the fifth exercise is the generous running confirmation. When someone is talking to you, in any English conversation, practice giving real-time running confirmations. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it. Yes. Not constantly, not interrupting. Just at natural moments, when something lands, when you're following, when a point has been made. Notice how the other person responds. Do they seem more relaxed? Do they communicate more clearly? Do they give you more detail? The running confirmation is a gift to the person speaking to you, and it also keeps you more actively engaged as a listener, because you can only give a genuine right or got it when you're actually following. Let me come back to Theo for the last scene of our story, because I want to end on something that brings everything together in a way that feels complete and human. It's Friday evening. The week is almost over. The Henderson event is 1 week away, and everything, genuinely, verifiably, in writing, is confirmed. Theo is packing up his desk when Clara sends one last email. It's short. It says, "Everything looks good from our end. We're confirmed on all points. Looking forward to next week. Thank you for your thoroughness." Theo reads it twice. He smiles. He shows it to Iris, who reads it and says simply, "There it is." And Theo says, "A month ago, I would have found all her checking excessive." Iris says, "And now?" Theo says, "Now I think she just knows what it takes to make things go right." Iris says, "That's it, exactly." He takes the train home, and he thinks about the week, about the shuttle confirmation that got checked, about the backup AV contact that Clara's call caught, about the half-dozen moments where information moved from probably fine to actually confirmed. And he thinks about what that felt like. Not just professionally, but personally. The clarity, the ease, the absence of that low-level hum of uncertainty that used to follow him around. That feeling of, I think we're good. I think we covered everything. I think we're on the same page. He doesn't have that feeling much anymore because now he doesn't think. He checks. He confirms. He closes the loop. And then he actually knows. On a train, he texts Iris. "Good week." She texts back. "Very good week." "Henderson is going to be great." He texts. "Confirmed?" She texts back a single word. "Confirmed." And he laughs, alone in his seat on the train, at the fact that the best word in their professional vocabulary has also become a kind of joke between them. And that the joke is built on something real, on months of caring about the same thing, on building the same habit together, on understanding that confirmed is better than probably, and definitely better than I think so. Confirmed is better than probably. Let's land there and close this out cleanly. Today we followed Theo through a week of learning to recognize, give, and respond to confirmation language in real English. We met Iris, whose commitment to clarity has shown Theo what good confirmation looks like up close. We met Bryce, whose fast, efficient, always closed-loop style has given Theo a model for professional confirmation in action. And we met Clara, whose thoroughness, once slightly exhausting, now deeply admired, showed Theo what confirmation culture looks like when it's fully developed. We covered the 5 main forms of confirmation in English. The explicit confirmation phrase, which names the agreement directly. The restatement confirmation, which proves comprehension by playing back the details. The summary check, which closes the loop at the overview level. The action confirmation, which verifies who does what and when. And the soft confirmation signal, which handles simple, low-stakes verification quickly and efficiently. We talked about the confirmation loop, how it opens, how it closes, and why a loop that doesn't close completely is a loop that leaves risk. We talked about the difference between probably fine and actually confirmed, and why that difference is the whole point. We talked about running confirmations, the real-time signals that tell a speaker their message is landing. And we talked about check before acting. The habit of verifying before doing that catches problems at exactly the right moment. And we gave you 5 exercises: confirmation loop tracking, restatement practice, verbal confirmation spotting, the pre-action pause, and the generous running confirmation, to take everything from today into your real English communication life. Confirmation is one of the quietest and most powerful forces in human communication. It's the moment when information becomes shared knowledge, when assumption becomes certainty, when communication stops being an act of transmission and becomes an act of genuine connection. 2 people who have truly, verifiably, completely understood each other. And that moment, that small, often brief, often very simple moment, is worth every second you spend learning to do it well. If today gave you something real, a new way of hearing those quick yes checks, a new understanding of why they matter, a new habit you want to build, please share this lesson. Share it with someone who nods along and later discovers they missed something. Share it with someone who confirms without checking and then wonders how things went sideways. Share it with anyone who wants their English communication to feel genuinely solid, genuinely clear, genuinely reliable. That's what this channel is for. English in Fluency is for the people who want to go all the way in, not just to understand English, but to communicate in it with full confidence and full clarity. Please subscribe so you're here for every new lesson as it comes. Every episode is built with real care, real people, real situations, and a real belief that this stuff matters. Because it does. Communication matters. Clarity matters. And you matter enough to get it right. This is Alex, from English in Fluency. Thank you for being here, for confirming, by listening all the way through, that this conversation was worth having. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, close the loop, catch the gaps, and never mistake probably for confirmed.